Yeah, I mean, because to me, the government job, it's like, it's on the one hand, it's a necessary evil, but I've even found a way to make that creative. Because, you know, I told you how years ago I did the all or nothing thing when I decided that I had enough of struggling as a comedian. Because I got to the point where, in 91, I got to the point where I was like getting gigs and I was making money, but the most I made in a year was $3,000 as a comedian. You know, that's not counting the doorman wages and stuff. I made like $3,000.
You can't have a family.
Yeah, after 6 or 7 years of banging my head against the wall and making $3,000 a year, we had moved to LA.
Right.
So my second wife at the time, before we had our kids, moved to LA. And for years after I quit, I said that LA had chewed me up and spit me out, which is so totally inaccurate because LA doesn't know me, right? It was me.
You weren't even on the menu.
No, I had just decided that I'd gotten to the point where I was just done trying. It was because, you know, it just,
well, you don't know
it's really
if
hard.
or when you're going to get the break.
Right, right.
You just keep trying
and some, you know, and some people, more power to them, because I'd gone on the road and I didn't like that. And the thing about being a comedian is that's really the only way to make a steady living is you got to hit the road. You got to
go where the work is, where the jobs are.
And I just didn't like that. So but what got me going off on that tangent was, the thing about all or nothing. So now I'm to the point where I'm going, the government job isn't as satisfying as doing stand-up or performing or whatever, but I still find ways to make it creative because I'm still writing software. And to be 60 years old and still writing software as part of my job, that's something I didn't think would ever be able to happen. And software is creative. I mean, you know, because you know, when you're doing levels or doing whatever.
I was 40 and thought I was old when I started
I know,
in the gaming business. Yeah.
That's what I know, because when I was in my 20s, and I remember some guy who he would come in occasionally to just do some work for us, drafting. He would do some drafting work, so it could have just as easily been you or someone like you. He would come in to do some drafting work for documents, and he would do these drawings and stuff. You know, at the time, he had said to me, because I told him how I felt like such a loser because I'd done comedy and didn't make it, and he said something that stuck with me. He went, no, you're not a loser. He goes, you tried.
Yeah.
You just found out.
A lot of people don't even do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, you just found out how hard it was and that you weren't willing to do that. You know, you did the first 99.
Commitments.
The first 99 yards, and that last yard is really hard, you know. But the thing is, I'm looking at him as being old. He was probably 40, you know,
right?
Because I was 20, you know, in my 20s, 30. Yeah. No, I was 31. You know?
Right. Exactly. So we've gone halfway. One lap.
I know you said that. What, 3 laps is your 10,000 steps?
Yeah.
Or how far is that?
Dean made it 1 lap.
Wise?
It's like 5 miles, or just under.
For the 3?
Yeah, for 10,000 steps.
See, the geek in me, because I got a math degree, so I was going to do, because a step is about a yard, right? Isn't it?
For you?
For me, I don't know. So that's what I said. I know it just depends.
For me, 3 steps.
Give or take.
So let's see. Oh, so you got to be in the movie Motherlode.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a nice. In fact, all these things that are happening that weren't planned. Because I know you did. Because it was Jeff. Was it Jeff that approached you, right?
Yeah.
And you were saying you were even reluctantly going to do it.
Well, I sort of worked with Jeff. I was there when he was doing Dean's little episodes for his Majestic 12. And a couple of times I went with Dean and just shot like behind the scenes and saw how he was doing things. And I'm like, you're shooting it with a cell phone? Things like that, you know? And he's like, well, I guess I could be doing it with the better cameras, you know? And so that's how he knew me and knew what I had and what I'd been doing. And I'd already made the feature film, but I didn't shoot that one. We had a whole crew for the feature film that I worked on. I directed that. But this was where I shot and directed the Motherlode. Yeah. And he could have directed it, and he did direct his sons to some degree, you know. They would listen to him, you know, or he knew what he wanted because he wrote it, so he knew what he wanted. So
that's what it seemed like when because I've been on. I
stepped back when he would say whatever.
Yeah. Because I know that was a different dynamic, because on a lot of sets there's that real rigid thing about nobody, the director does this, the AD does that, and it has to be, but there's a chain of command. But
but we had, Dean and Jeff and I at the beginning thought, well, we're all going to work together and do this thing. Right. But I think Jeff mainly needed me for the to see how it all works, you know, because you got to have the audio. We had the audio guy from my other project. I hired him to come in, and so you have to have it to where he knows when you're starting.
Yeah.
You know, he'll say set, and then lighting, whatever, and then everybody says set, and then I say action. You know, that kind of thing. And it was just the technical part of it that Jeff hadn't experienced, I think.
Right. And
otherwise, he knew what to tell the actors, you know.
Right.
What to do, because he wrote it.
Yeah, and I could tell. I mean, it was being run, you know, very professionally, like every other set I've been on that was, you know, actually, I shouldn't say actually, it was a professional. The thing is, Motherload was a professional shoot.
Okay.
The only dynamic that I noticed that was a little different is what you just mentioned.
Where
is
we just kind of
there was a little bit more sharing of, but then I think that's probably happening a lot more these days because with so many more productions going on in various size crews, people are going to share roles where it's really only going to be when you have a lot bigger budget that you have very defined roles.
Right. Also, the editing. I started the editing. I set up all the files, made them in pieces, you know, like edible little pieces that you could grab.
Yeah.
I did all that in like a week, and then I did a rough cut of the whole movie. And then he took it and finessed it the way he wanted it, you know, to some degree.
Yeah.
And then he came back to Dean and I, and he was open, and we said, put some of that back in that I had done, you know. So it was kind of a give and take. So till we were all happy, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, nice collaboration. I've only recently started collaborating again. Well, I mean, although I just played a bit part, I was just you know there for that one day. But that was good because I liked the dovetail because that day because Melissa Greenberg was there.
Yeah.
And we had met, and she also went back to the Comedy Store back in the day.
Yeah, Dean knew her from before.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, at first I felt bad that I didn't remember her because she's got pictures with a bunch of people that
Dean said her hair, everything was different.
Well, yeah.
She looked different, yeah.
And she goes, don't worry about it, because she was a waitress and she wasn't doing stand-up at the time. She was a waitress, but she goes, don't worry about it. I don't remember the other waitresses either. So I go, yeah, okay, I guess, because she'd remembered me and the other crew.
So maybe Jeff brought her in. Maybe he knew her more than Dean then, because I guess Dean kind of reintroduced to her when we shot the movie.
Yeah, and then
so I think Jeff knew her.
And I know my side of the story. The more recent part of the story was I went to see because Melissa is now booking shows. Now she is doing stand up and she's booking shows because you went to see the show Hobos. Where she's booking herself and booking
it, yeah.
And then she gets these people to come down from LA to do it. So she got Mark Fernandez to come down, and he's a guy that we worked the door together back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I then saw Jeff and Mark, and Jeff and I had seen each other at one of Lamont's shows. So it was the thing about you said earlier. Just I started like getting out of the house again.
Yeah.
Okay, so my side of the story.
So one thing led to another till you were in our movie.
Into the movie, yeah, exactly. And then then I'm thinking the same thing with Melissa. Somehow the snowball, somehow the snowball caught up. And now, so she booked me at that Hobos gig, and now she's said she's going to book me at some other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So the Comedy Store. You'd ask like, what? I don't really have a lot going on, but the one thing that I have penciled in is sometime in February, because I turned 60 on February 11th. I had approached the manager at the La Jolla Comedy Store saying, "Hey, I'd like to book a show. It's my 60th birthday." And the thing is, even though I'd worked the door way back in the day, that really is not counting.
Nobody remembers you.
Yeah, and even though they
had a turnaround probably with the
huge
all the employees.
You could be like 5 or 10 years removed, and people go, "Who are you?"
Right.
But at least they're taking me at my word that yes, indeed, I did work at the store back then. But it doesn't count for anything as far as like the pecking order.
Yeah, getting some kind of a bump up or special treatment of any kind.
I don't get that anymore, which is fine because the guys working the door and doing the shit work, they deserve the bump up, right? But with that said, even though I'm like at the back of the line, I still have to call in for open mic spots. I may or may not even get my 3 minutes every week. I still thought, you know what, I'm going to approach this guy and I got nothing to lose.
Right.
And so I proposed to him saying, hey, I'll produce a show. It's my 60th birthday.
I'll bring some people in.
I'll bring some people in. You know, we'll work out a deal, whatever deal you normally work with people. Let's work out a deal. And I'm not looking for like a glory time for me. I'll get legit headliners.
Okay, we'll walk through the mud.
Yeah. Because I didn't want to make this mistake. There's some comics, especially the noobs, and fine, people have to be, I don't want to be cutting them down so much as just to say a lot of times when people are brand new, they do stuff they're not ready for. I've seen people doing comedy for like a couple of months.
Oh gosh.
And then they're booking their own shows because they're not happy with the amount of stage time they're getting. And they're booking their own shows, and they're not only booking your own show is fine, but they're putting themselves as the headliner.
Ooh.
After being like a comic for like 2 or 3 months, quote unquote comic, right? And I'm going, no. And,
then everyone's going to expect them to be the big thing of the night.
Right. And
when the ones before it might be the big thing of the night, right?
Exactly. And I mean, it's actually
kind of
painful. And they'll learn, because the thing is, they're not going to be asked back to do. If you book a room and you book yourself to do 45 minutes, and you've only got maybe a solid 2 minutes. And I'm not even exaggerating, because if you've only been doing comedy for a few months, you're lucky to have a good 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
You usually bomb for a long time.
That would be painful.
But so I let the comedy store, the La Jolla Comedy Store manager know that I'm not going to do that, because I've even got 30 years of experience off and on, but really I've got maybe 10 years of experience spread out over 30 years.
Yeah, but you could still pull that off.
I know that I'm not a headliner. So I told him I wanted to let him know that I knew that. I said, look, I'm not looking to put on a 60th birthday show saying, hey, look at me, this is my show. I'll host it. I'll do like Melissa did for the Hobo Show. I'll host it.
Where you start out with your set, and then you introduce
and I'll introduce people. I'll get up and do 10, because I can do 10. My set right now is somewhere between, okay, so here's my joke, but it's actually true. I have a tight 10, a solid 15, and a squishy 20. And where the squishiness comes in is I know realistically that in order to do 20, I would have to work the crowd. That starts to become like, hey, how you doing? Where are you from?
Hey, what a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So that I don't really have a tight 20 yet.
Gotcha.
But I'm working on it, right? But I'm trying to be as honest as possible, because a lot of times I see people say that they just did 20 somewhere, and I'm going, dude, you haven't been doing comedy for a year, and you're doing 20. You're not really doing 20. You might be standing there for 20. Technically, you're doing 20.
Are they still in the room after 10 minutes?
So again, I don't want to be bashing on the noobs so much as I'm just bashing on the noobs who they don't know better.
Real noobs.
They don't know any better.
Noobs.
Yeah, they haven't been around long enough to know that that there's a certain pacing to it.
So you would have 2 or 3 others that you would bring in.
Yeah, so that was the plan. So I proposed. The pitch I made to him was, look, Mike, it's my 60th birthday. I know, and at this point, I know I don't have any seniority here or whatever, because I've been away from the Comedy Store a lot more than I've been at the Comedy Store. But you do
have experience, and you know how.
He's seen me, and he's seen me perform, so he knows that I'm a comic.
Yeah.
He knows he's only seen me 3 minutes at a time, but over the course of the last couple of years, because I've come over my most recent visit back into comedy. I guess I didn't mention that yet for the folks out there. No, is about the last 3-ish years. And I've been doing pretty steadily, at least going out at least once a week, sometimes a few times a week for a few years now.
Okay.
And so Mike had seen me perform. He knows I'm actually a comic.
Yeah.
I'm not just going, hey.
Sure.
So.
And he should know that you're going to bring in some people.
And I'm going to bring in people.
Definitely.
And maybe at that point, the fact that I worked the door 30 years ago also had something to do with him being open to the idea. I don't know. I didn't ask him.
Sure.
But here's the point: is the counter offer was, well, he had to talk to Hollywood, because the La Jolla manager has control over certain shows, like the Wednesday show. Okay. But then once it starts getting into the weekend, because I was asking for a Thursday, and because I didn't want to, here's the thing, I didn't want to take away a Wednesday, because Wednesday is an open mic in Best of San Diego. I didn't want to have my, hey, look at me 60th birthday show and deny other people of stage time.
I see.
Right? I didn't want like the whole local San Diego community
to have to wait
to have like 30 comedians who don't get stage time that week because I'm putting on a show. So I told him, I said, look, if we're going to do this, I want it to be a Thursday in February. I'll book it. We'll work out whatever deal. I'll get a couple of headliners in for you. I told him the names. So he had to run it by Hollywood, and Hollywood counteroffered with, well, no, we want to still bring our people down from LA. We want to still, because we know that they're a draw, and we want to still have our Comedy Store comics to come down, but we'll give Joe a spot. So I went, okay.
So they're kind of running it now. But
which is fine. That means I don't have to book it.
You might have some bigger names.
Yeah, I don't have to produce it.
You don't have to pay.
I don't have to pay. I don't have to book it. I don't have to do all the legwork, and I still get my...
But now you've told the secret, and all the other comedians will know how to get in.
Except they're not turning...
They don't have the experience.
Except they didn't work the door in the 80s, and they're not 60 years old. So,
True.
we all have our own paths. That's the thing about giving people advice.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
they don't have all of it.
Yeah.
They don't have the background to pull it off.
Right. But I was going to say in a nutshell, but I guess I was longer than a nutshell. So that's like the only thing I have on the horizon, except that's penciled in for February. He told me last week, hey, I'm still talking to Hollywood. I have you penciled in for the 6th, but I'm going, okay, fine. And I've got myself in this total state of mind now, where whether it happens or not, I'm fine with it. I am totally fine with it.
Yeah.
Because of this snowball we've been talking about.
You know what you're saying.
If it happens, great. I get my time. It's not good. And also, if it does happen, I don't want to put too much importance on it, because that's a kiss of death.
Right.
I'll be up there going, oh my God, this is really going to work.
And then forget you can't be yourself when you're
I've been doing comedy so many years. I know how to do it. So that's what I feel about, like, with this one. I'm going, okay, if that one spot, because I've done that room. I've done that room. It's been a lot of years since I've done that room with the lights down. One of the things they do at the Comedy Store to separate the open mic from the Best of San Diego on Wednesdays is
change that.
They change the lighting. The lighting is up, and lighting, when you do stand up is hard anyway, right? But then everything has to be in your favor. The lighting should be low. The sound system has to be good. There should be a spotlight in the comic. The room, the ceiling should be low. The walls should be nice and solid walls, so that the laughs echo instead of being absorbed into the wall. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into designing a good comedy room, right? So then even something like the open mic, we're still able to get laughs on the open mic set, but it's still not quite the same because the lights are up. And I like staying in the room, like even whether I get a spot or not. I like staying in the room for a couple hours whenever I go down to San Diego. For one thing, it's a drive from Temecula, so I might as well.
A couple hours.
Yeah, but also I like just absorbing, being in the room,
area,
feeling the room, feeling the rhythm of the comedy.
Sure.
To me, that's all.
Well, then you're not as nervous maybe when you get up there. You feel like I've already scoped this out.
I know this room.
Yeah.
I know this room. So whether I'm performing or not, I like being in a comedy room. Because even when I'm not doing stage time, I'm convinced that it's helping me, because your nervous system. In fact, years ago, I read this book, Psycho-Cybernetics, and you've probably heard this principle, if not the book, is that your nervous system can't tell the difference between a real and a vividly imagined event. So this is where visualization comes in, because if you really just kick back and visualize a goal, eventually it'll happen, just because you're going to be drawn towards it, right? But here's the experiment. They took three different groups of people. The first group of people shot baskets, and then didn't shoot baskets again for a couple of weeks. Then the second group of people shot baskets every day for 2 weeks. Third group of people shot baskets, and then a couple weeks later, and then for 2 weeks they just stood in front of the basketball hoop and visualized shooting baskets. Right? Those people improved almost as much as the people who actually shot baskets.
No way.
And for a while I thought, oh, maybe this is folklore, or it's something that somebody just...
So all my TV watching is going to pay off.
I just think we absorb, if you watch, if you watch somebody skateboarding, you're not going to necessarily become a great skateboarder.
But you see what they're doing.
But you start to get into the rhythm of it.
Gotcha.
So I feel that way sometimes when I'm in a room watching stand-up. It's not lost on me that I didn't get my 3 minutes, but I'm still in the room. I'm absorbing. I'm still absorbing it. Right? Getting back to the lights. This is how my act is, by the way. I bounce around. It's on my. That's one of those goals too. Is to be on stage, because some people have characters that they do on stage, or they have a very rigid story structure or whatever. My act is just like this. That's been my goal. Is like my voice.
Where it sounds more natural.
I'm doing this too much. Where it's just like, but also not only natural, but I tend to babble, but then I got to take a breath, and I'll go off on a tangent, and then come back to the point. So the point about the lights was, I have watched, and even though the comics are better in the Best of San Diego than the open mics, but you got a lot of really good comics at the open mic. At the La Jolla store. Yeah, I mean, it's everything from somebody who's maybe never done stand-up before and they call in to get a spot, to pros that are getting there and working on their act, but they just aren't.
They want to work stuff out.
Right, but they just haven't gotten themselves to the point where the Comedy Store gives them spots yet. Even like me, I'd put myself in that category because I'm not going to go, I'm not a headliner, but I'm a pro. I know what I'm doing. I mean, you saw me perform. I'm not fishing for compliments so much as to, at some point you go, no, I'm not bragging so much as I know who I am.
Definitely.
I'm a professional comic. I'm just not getting paid.
No, you're way ahead of most of them, I would say.
Hey, thank you. Gee,
I would definitely say that.
But and enough to know too that so I watched the lights go down. They open the curtain that now has this neon Comedy Store light. They bring out the comedy stool. Which, see, even the open micers, because there's always a stool on stage. And the reason that there's always a stool on stage historically and also now is sometimes comics want to get up there and set their beer, or their phone or whatever. There's a place for them to set stuff.
Gotcha.
But for the open mic, no comedy stool.
Oh, no.
No neon light behind the curtain. Lights are up. House lights.
Oh, no.
House lights are up on the audience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On the audience?
On the audience. Now, we didn't do that back in the day. When I was working at the store back in the day, the potluck night, which is now called open mic, potluck night, same, you got the same lighting, the same everything that the headliners got on the weekend. So I'm going.
Why would they light the crowd up?
It's just something I wasn't there during that time where they decided.
Because then
that.
they don't. It seemed like they'd be more. You know, I
they
don't
are.
I don't want to yell or
exactly
clap now.
Exactly. So if you do get laughs on the open mic, you're doing really well because they're even more uptight.
Right.
Right. So because
Yeah,
recently, so it'll be nice. So if I do get that spot on February 6th, I'm not downplaying it to say, oh, it won't be a big deal. Yeah, I'll enjoy it, but it's like it'll be a flashback to when I actually was one of the cool kids. I've worked that room. I've done that room on a Thursday. I have worked in front of 250 people on a Thursday in a packed room with the lights down, and it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make it like, oh, this is gonna lead. This is gonna lead to something. No, that's no. And if it doesn't happen, I'm repeating myself, but that's fine, you can edit. No, and also if it doesn't happen, I go, okay, fine. I go, I will genuinely thank the manager and go, oh, maybe some other time.
Right.
Thank you for your time, because really he's been going back and forth with Hollywood, just negotiating to even get me a spot. Right. I appreciate it. You know, I don't really have a relationship with him yet, because I've only, I don't push myself onto people. I tend to be a wallflower, believe it or not. I tend to like go in a room, I'll hang back in the corner. Even when I watch the shows, I will talk with a couple comics here and there, but mostly I don't mingle so much. I just kind of stand there. Things come to me. I might talk to somebody here and there, but for the most part, and like with the manager, I'm not like getting in his face.
Oh yeah.
I'll just go up and order my drink because he's generally working behind the bar on the open mic night.
That's the way I am.
I'll go, excuse me, can I have hey Mike, can I have my cranberry juice? And I'll throw some money on the counter, because even though he doesn't charge, I like to tip him. I like to tip him, and also the tips go to the waiters and waitresses. So I'm always mindful of that stuff, right? But the point is like, I've never really sat down and had like a talk with him. Our conversation so far has been, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Oh yeah, about that spot. I've got you penciled in for February 6th. Fine, thanks, Mike. And I walk away.